What's up? Welcome into this Monday afternoon edition of Pushing the Pile. Usually we have Matt Ryan on Mondays. Matty Ice comes in, he breaks down QBs, but Matt Ryan gave us his notes. He gave us the quarterback of the week, and he said, I'm going to shoot a commercial. So we are here, me, Mike Renner, Kyle Long, going to break down some quarterbacks off the rip. And we'll start with his quarterback of the week because Jayden Daniels, rookie second overall pick for the Washington Commanders, earns this award. And this wasn't even Jayden Daniels' best game of the season, which is wild to say. Rookies winning the award in probably the second best game of the season. I mean, he was better last week. He had objectively, a few off-target throws this week as opposed to last week. Had that bad pick. But the first quarterback Jayden Daniels became in NFL history with 85% completion percentage in back-to-back games. He has the highest completion percentage in a 4-game span in the NFL since 1970. That's 82.1%. Highest completion percentage in a 2-game span since 1970, 88.7%. Most rushing yards by a quarterback in his first 4 starts for all time. That's tied.
If the guy had 20 yards rushing on the season, it would still be as impressive because of his ability to throw the football well, accurately, on time, and be explosive in the passing game. But then you add to that the fact that he is running essentially better than Lamar Jackson has ran in his career. In my opinion, the guy looks faster.
But yeah.
The guy looks to have more confidence with the football, and it's hard to imagine a quarterback with more confidence than Lamar Jackson carrying the football. But Jayden Daniels, he's got it. He's got Riz. He's got aura. He's got the juice. Whatever these guys are talking about, he's got it. Jayden Daniels has it. So much fun to watch, though. That's why he's the quarterback of the week.
I mean, it does remind me a little bit of one of those names on this list. Now, I'm not going to put that career on him, but this was RG3 off the rip.
Yeah.
Where it's like RG3 wasn't missing throws. He was faster than everyone else on the football field, and that offense just hummed. And the impact a guy like that, a guy like Jayden Daniels, a guy like RG3 did, the impact those guys have on their running game cannot be understated because this Washington running game is operating better than we've ever seen them last year. Like it is night and day from a year ago. Some of that's on the offensive line. They're playing fantastic in front of him. But Jayden Daniels is a factor in a lot of that in terms of him being able to add on to it and just take that attention away because the RPO game there in Washington is almost unstoppable at this point. Jayden Daniels is making the correct decision every single time. He's not missing throws when he's given them, and that's a recipe to just pound the ball down the football field teams. That's how you see 38 last week, 42 points this week. This is one of, if not through 4 weeks, the best offense in the NFL right now.
Yeah, it's been so much fun to watch. And to your point about the offensive line, they've been great. And, they add some guys. They've got Cosme in there, who's a really good player. But then you add guys like Andrew Wiley and Nick Allegretti. And I think this is something that's been unsaid in the last few weeks. These guys know how to win football games. They came from Kansas City. They came from a place where they had the utmost, ultimate faith in their quarterback and their coaching staff to put their star player, Jayden Daniels, in position to make plays. And what we've seen is a group that's bought in. Offensively, the defense is coming around, playing better. But it's this offense. They believe in this guy. They know that when they get off the bus at whatever stadium they're at in America or worldwide, they're going to have a chance to win with Jayden Daniels. It's been so much fun to watch. And, yeah, I had questions about the O-line at the beginning of the year, but they're playing great. They're blocking people up in pass and run. They're a dangerous group, man.
I'll leave Rob Lamar Jackson because I think it's, we're at the point where we can start talking about ceiling for Jayden Daniels. We don't just have to talk about is he or isn't he. Yeah, he is. The man is a franchise quarterback at this point. You don't do what he did and all of a sudden turn into a bench warmer, right? He's got it. It's just where does his ceiling go? Because I think from a tools perspective, he does not have an absolute cannon for an arm. He's not that guy. He is on the skinnier side. So, yeah, he can run. But it's not like
he's full-blown skinny.
But, yeah, you're not going to pound him in the running game. He's just the threat's there. You're not going to really fully buy into those legs. And we saw what happened with another skinny quarterback in RG3 and the knee injury he had and how that really derailed his career. So that's the last thing you want to do to him at this point. But to me, when you go apples to apples with a guy like Lamar Jackson, he's a lot more accurate. I think he plays just a little bit more consistently in timing than Lamar does. And
who does he throw like? Who does he remind you of as a thrower?
Just a pure release. Gosh, I mean, it's a really aesthetically pleasing release. It's he has very, very good throwing mechanics. I'm trying to think of a comp for him. I mean, Lamar does too. I don't think that's a crazy from just how they get rid of the football standpoint. But you look at the numbers there. No, not a lot of people as accurate as him. Now, again, this offense, if I were to describe this
82-1,
offense,
and they're not at the line of scrimmage. I mean, this guy's driving the football down the field.
Well, it's a lot of bring you up underneath to worry about the running game, quick passing game. Like, that's what it is, a lot. But then, I think I said earlier today on the Pushing the Pile podcast, I said he takes a profit every time he sees it, but he will make you pay if you start creeping up and take those away. He is aggressive when he needs to be, and he will take good chances down the football field. And we saw it at the end of the Bengals game. We're obviously talking about him as quarterback of the week in week 4 here, but week 3, going back to that Bengals game, the throw he made on 3rd down against a zero blitz with a free man coming under him and a go ball to Terry McLaurin, that's stuff that guys have been in the league 8 to 10 years aren't willing to do, right? Like, that's just like you have it or you don't. And right now, I think it's very clear that Jane Daniels has.
It's got to be so nice. It's kind of a microcosm of the entire team's renaissance here in D.C. When you think about Terry McLaurin and the skill set he has and the amount of reps that he's been open and the ball just hasn't found him in years past. He hasn't had the success that he knows he can have with his talent. Now you get a guy like Jane Daniels. There is real chemistry there between him and Terry McLaurin. It's going to be dangerous throughout the entire season. They're only going to get better, in my opinion.
A team that may be the best in the NFL and has only gotten better throughout the course of the season, Minnesota Vikings. They traveled to Green Bay, upset the Packers, 31-29.
Score!
What were your takeaways in this quarterback battle? Because I don't think this was necessarily decided by the quarterback position, but I think if you're fans of either of these teams, you have to think that these quarterbacks can put you in a chance to win any game.
Difference between these two quarterbacks, in my opinion, first off, Jordan Love had to prove his health to me, and he was healthy. It looked like he got more comfortable as the game went on, and obviously nearing 400 yards by the end of that game, and a lot of those were at the back end of this football game. But for Sam Darnold, it is the utmost blind faith in your superstar wide receiver, Justin Jefferson. Even when he's guarded, blanketed by Nixon in the end zone, you throw it out there. You give your guy a chance, and what do you know? Your guy can catch it. He put about 2 or 3 of those balls right in the bucket where Justin just has to open his hands up a little bit and the ball goes in there. They were able to convert. I loved what I saw from this offense. They started the game with the screen game. You kind of get Sam's feet under him. You get him comfortable, and then it opens up with the down the field stuff. And for Jordan Love, the accuracy issues early. He was seeing pressures. He was identifying. He was making the right reads, but it's about making the throw as a quarterback. He let a couple sail early. It got out of hand, and obviously turnovers, that's what got him.
That was the biggest thing, is just he kind of dug himself a little too deep of a hole because he did look a little, I'm not saying he was hurt, but I'm saying that he looked rusty.
He was ginger.
Like
he was
a guy
ginger
who
on it.
Was not feeling fully confident in that left knee, and that's fine, but he figured it out as the game went on. I think next week, or as the season goes on, you'll see the Jordan Love that we saw second half of last season, but I think this game was more about the other side. Sam Darnold, just his ability to pour it on as quickly as they did in that game. He doesn't turn things down. You'll talk about a lot of these rookie quarterbacks, and are they seeing these downfield routes? Are they willing to give their guys chances? Are they willing to attack when the opportunity is there? Darnold's attacking every time. He's maybe like bordering a little too risky. He had some throws down the football field. Obviously, one got picked by Xavier McKinney that he'd want back. But he is doing what it takes in that offense to make those explosive plays to then open up the running game. And just like, if you want to play this Vikings team right now, you better play a perfect game or else you're going to lose.
Yeah, they cut it loose. I mean, whether it's the offensive side of the ball with their stars, and we saw Addison back in the game, that was awesome with all the distraction that Justin Jefferson causes in the secondary, the attention you have to pay to that superstar, and rightfully so. A guy like Jordan Addison is streaking booty naked down the field. Nobody's guarding Addison. He's got nobody within 7 yards of him, and then getting him involved in the jet sweep motions and stuff like that down near the red area, you got another piece for Sam Darnold. So it's like we haven't seen the best of Sam Darnold in this Minnesota Vikings offense, but I give credit to that defense as well. They're the group that allows Sam Darnold to play free because he knows that they're not going to be cut through like soft butter with like a knife through hot butter. The defense gives him a chance. That lets him play free. Kevin O'Connell obviously gives him a ton of confidence as well.
Yeah, they're going to be tough. They're going to be tough out. All right, on to another NFC North team. Chicago Bears get another win, going to 2-2 over the Los Angeles Rams at home. Caleb Williams, a far cry from the last time we saw him at home in week 1 in terms of his performance. Seen real growth over these first 4 weeks. What does the rest of the season look like from him?
The rest of the season just looks like incremental improvements. And what I saw this past week was a guy that looked to be comfortable in the pocket, even when sometimes both tackles were getting bared down on him and there's a bull rush on the left and a swim move inside. I mean, I credit that Los Angeles Rams front. They were getting after Caleb Williams, but he was able to stay poised. They stuck with the running game. I love what Shane Waldron did in the red area, the low red area. They got away from that speed option stuff and they got into fullback lead. And who's the fullback? It's their backup center in there, 300-pounder, getting in there, mashing face. This is the kind of style of play that the Chicago Bears need to have. I don't need to see gaudy numbers from Caleb Williams. The only numbers that matter are 0 interceptions, and the only letter that matters is a W. And they got a W at home. He had over 100 passer rating. I really liked what I saw from Caleb, and then the defense was great too.
Well, that's what we thought when we said best situation ever for a first-round pick, right? You can win games with the defense, you can win games with the running game, and you have enough wide receivers that if you just can get kept clean, he'll be able to operate. So I think this is what everyone expected, like maybe week 1 as opposed to week 4, but I think we're here with Caleb Williams that like he can actually develop behind that situation now. I'm going to go to the last quarterback here in the rookie class that's playing that we haven't really gotten to talk about, Bo Nix, because everyone was clowning the first half stat line, and it was bad. 7 out of 15, -7 yards. But if you go back, flip on the tape, the rain was absurd.
Yeah.
He couldn't hold on to the football. So, like, Sean Payton should not have been throwing anything in that first. Should not have been calling any pass plays with what was going on. Obviously, they ran the ball a lot better in the second half. And he made, like, a pretty sick throw on a deep dig in that second half as well. So, still showed some signs. I know Sean Payton after the game said this guy's confident. And I think that's the biggest thing you see with Nix week in and week out. He's not affected by the pressure. He's not playing behind a great offensive line. They've been banged up. He's still taking the chances when he needs to. Now, the biggest thing with him has just been inaccuracy. He's missed a ton more throws than either of these other 2 rookie quarterbacks. That was his deal early on at Auburn, and then he got fixed by his last year at Oregon. So that's the one thing that if you're a Broncos fan, that gets fixed over the course of the season, you're in business. You're very happy because that's really the one thing I think holding him back right now. I don't think he's making the boneheaded mistakes that we saw week 1, week 2.
Yeah, and they're a good football team, too. So for a guy like Bo Nix, you get a great coach, you get a team that can play complementary football. They play hard. There's something about this Broncos group that I just love to watch, and I think it's because they're well coached. But at the end of the day, for Bo Nix, take care of the football, hit the ones they give you, and when you do get a chance to use that confidence to hit a shot down the field, if you've got Sutton somewhere open, make it happen. But not good enough early, but to your point, that weather is so hard to play in. It is so hard to play in the same way that we talked about the footing for that Brazil game or the Super Bowl a couple years ago with the Chiefs-Eagles. It impacts everything, and that rain impacts everything. Even Aaron Rodgers couldn't hold on to the football a few times on throws. So that's a game that they both want to not take a look at the film, I'm sure.
Yeah, that was a tough one. But I will say quarterback play, after everyone's saying doom and gloom week 1, we've seen a little bit.
Yeah, chill out.
All right, we're going to get Jonathan Jones to join the program after this to go through some of the biggest storylines around the NFL. Welcome back to Pushing the Pile. Jonathan Jones joins the program, as he always does, on Monday afternoons to run through some of the headlines. And with Kyle Long here on the booth, we wanted to get to the biggest headline for Bears fans over the weekend. Tom Brady let slip that he was almost a Chicago Bear right when your career in Chicago, Kyle, was ending. Jonathan, what went down there behind the scenes, and what could have happened if he ended up a Chicago Bear?
Wow, what could have happened if he ended up a Chicago Bear? So Kyle, help me out here on the timeline. Because you retired to come do television with me, right?
During that COVID year.
And then during the COVID year, right? But then Tom Brady, of course, said in March, hey, I'm going to leave the Patriots. I'm going elsewhere. The Chicago Bears were involved. Obviously, he goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And you were so close to missing out on an opportunity to block for the GOAT. And I just, that year he went on and he won 4 playoff games. I tallied up. I went through all the quarterbacks that you blocked for and how many playoff games they had won. And we had Jay Cutler and Josh McCown and Jimmy Clausen and Matt Barkley and Brian Hoyer and Mitch Trubisky and Mike Glennon and Chase Daniel. And you just missed out on Tom Brady. How does that feel for you?
You know, it's funny that you asked that because I heard it for the first time yesterday, and obviously he said it was a stealth mission by both his camp and the Chicago Bears management to try to get him to become a Bear. But, you know, I said it there. Had I retired and the Bears got Brady, I would have been down tremendously. The only saving grace is I got to work for CBS that year. We had coverage of the Super Bowl in Tampa, where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers chased an injured Patrick Mahomes all over the field, obviously routing them, getting the Super Bowl. And I remember looking at Bill Cowher in the parking lot of the stadium, and I said, dude, I think I'm going to go play next year. He's like, do you really want to? I said, yeah, I want to go play for one of these great quarterbacks. It looks like Mahomes could use some help. So I come out of retirement, go play in Kansas City, and of course, I get injured in the spring, and the rest is history. After that season, they end up winning both the Super Bowls. So either way, it's just not destined to be. I'm supposed to be in the media. It would have been cool to play with Tom Brady. I think that those fans would have just been unsure what to do with themselves if they get a guy like Tom Brady in their building, playing for the Bears, wearing that C on his helmet. It would have been a lot of fun, but didn't happen. And obviously, history is history, and he went elsewhere, JJ.
You would have probably been like
Mike,
his Tony Siragusa.
I want to be clear about this. He talks about how like he's in this parking lot with Coach Cowher, and they had this magical moment, like it was this movie scene. Right? I think I'm going to go play. This man was doing pass sets during commercial breaks of our 2020 that other pregame show on CBS Sports Network. Everybody in that studio knew that he was not done playing football. So don't make it sound, Kyle, like it was the Super Bowl that did it. You knew the whole time that you were going back.
I knew where I wanted to go after seeing that Super Bowl, JJ. And to your point, once you get out of the league, it's hard to get out mentally, emotionally. You know, physically, that's the easy part. You know, you're no longer sore Monday through Friday, which is great. But then you get this thing that's missing. And we saw that with Tom, and we saw that with guys like Gronk coming back and playing, wanting another opportunity at it. And for me, the best opportunity was to go try to block for Patrick Mahomes. And obviously, I knew that offense pretty well because of Matt Nagy's offense in Kansas City or Chicago.
You guys watching at home, make sure to tune into the 9:30 a.m. podcast because we don't wear earpieces then. And anytime we get a chance to demo offensive line play, Kyle's out of his seat, giving you guys a full breakdown. All right, JJ, some interesting things happened at the end of this Jags-Texans game. There was a play where a lateral happened back to Travis Etienne. He gets tackled at the 1 yard line. They're down 4. It's 24-20. 1 yard line, gets thrown back into the end zone, then tackled in the end zone, but it gets marked down at the 1. And now the NFL nowadays, with the prevalence of betting, had some betting implications given what the line was of that game, what the over-under was of that game, and would have swung a good number of bets. Are there any fallout from that play going forward?
No fallout. It does appear that it was officiated properly, that Travis Etienne had his forward progress stopped at the 1. He's taken back into the end zone, and he starts to try to go forward in the end zone. And, of course, if he would have restarted his forward progress, really kind of taken another step, then I think that's when you rule a safety. And that is where you would get the over on the total. And that's where you would get a change there in terms of the betting lines and betting implications. I'll say this, and this is sort of it bothers me sometimes when people talk about the NFL and betting. And one of the things, and this is going to be a soapbox for me, where the NFL has sponsors with betting organizations. There's no question about it now that it has been legalized in so many states. It is still illegal for players to bet on the games, whether it's legal or illegal in whatever state. Nothing has changed there. What has changed is there's a lot of money coming in that through sponsorships that players themselves are getting to enjoy via the rise in the salary cap. And so while we may roll our eyes at any number of things that are going on here, players are reaping some benefits from this, and that can't be lost when people want to talk about the perceived both sides-isms that the NFL has with sports gambling.
Yeah, we've talked about it, that the NFL, though, has to do more to protect their shield, we thought, and that a lot of these officiating calls with no real oversight, no real ability to challenge them, when they decide, you know, big things like that, say they had gone the wrong way with this call, when they decide a lot of money on the line, I think there needs to be a way for the NFL to oversight
I think these guys aren't even paying attention to what the hell the line is or who's got props.
But everyone at home sees it, and when it's a really bad call that's deciding games of that nature,
it's only natural to think. It's only natural to think that there's some universal vendetta against your parlay or your
well,
play.
There is, all mine.
But at the end of the day, I never thought about it as a player because it wasn't important to me. What was important to me as a player was protection, blitz meeting, what's our run game, the first 15. I got to keep Jay Cutler upright. The last thing I was thinking about is Alshon needs 2 more catches or give Matt Forte the ball again. And I would imagine that these officials are kind of in the same boat. There is so much on their plate. They have to be so on their P's and Q's. And to your point, it was the right call. So it's really a no conversation. But the conversation is how many of these guys are actually thinking about that? Are they trying to throw some dirt on some of these bets? At the end of the day, we'll never know. I mean, we just won't know. But that's part of the league. There is gambling. They are in bed with the NFL. Everybody benefits from it financially, players and everybody. That's what the CBA is about. That's what the salary cap's about, to your point. So at the end of the day, enjoy the game. Don't get so bent out of shape, all right? Relax.
And only bet we can afford to lose. All right, on to another Jaguar story.
That's a great point that you just made.
On to another Jaguar story because they're 0-4. Trevor Lawrence has now lost 9 straight starts.
Not good, Cotton.
What do we expect going forward with this Jaguars team? Because Press Taylor, offensive coordinator, always had a good relationship with Doug Peterson, but reportedly tensions maybe between Peterson and the front office there in Jacksonville.
So Trevor Lawrence has not won a game since Thanksgiving weekend of last year, right? The Jags have only won 1 game since that time, and that was against the Carolina Panthers, the worst team in football, in the infamous David Tepper drink-throwing incident. What is going on right now is, I know that a number of fans, and I'm not going to say whether they're right or wrong, a number of fans want Doug Peterson to take away play calling from Press Taylor. We heard from Doug Peterson after the game. He thinks the Press called a heck of a game. He doesn't want to take play calling away from him. So that's number one. Number two, if you have Doug and Press and you want to fire one of them, you're probably firing both of them. There's no other interim coach there. Mike McCoy is in the building there, but the last time he coordinated an offense, it was the 2018 Cardinals, where he was fired midseason. And so then you also have the general manager, Trent Baalke, who has survived a number of head coaches over his 2 tenures, both with the San Francisco 49ers and now with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're 0-4, and ultimately what they absolutely need, because there's no savior coming, they need Trevor Lawrence to play better football. He has been one of the most inaccurate passers in all of football. Really, only Anthony Richardson has been more inaccurate than Trevor Lawrence. And so we can talk about play calls and we can talk about game planning throughout the week and all of those things, but it certainly seems like, at least with sources that I talked to, that the Jaguars really need Trevor Lawrence to play better before they really focus on anything else.
Yeah, and there's so much upside. When you first look at Trevor Lawrence coming into the league, it's, there's guys that you would put your bottom dollar on to be successful in the National Football League. He was one of those guys that I was like, yeah, I guess I believe what everybody's saying. And I watched him play in some big games in college, and I thought, well, this is going to translate great. And to your point, it's the accuracy issues for Trevor Lawrence. And also, I just don't think they have the confidence. And it's one of those spots as an athlete, when your confidence takes a shot, it takes a very, very, very long time to get it back. It's not going to happen overnight. Not only do I think they need to win a game to get the confidence back, I think they need to win streak. They might need to win 3 or 4 and able to get back to 0. And until then, we're going to have questions about Doug Peterson. We're going to have questions about the play caller. We're going to have questions about Trevor Lawrence. But that's what comes along with a massive, massive contract at quarterback.
Yeah, a lot of issues there. Trevor Lawrence being one of them, Jacksonville. All right, we're going to have JJ stick around for us for another break here because we have a lot of injuries to dig into for some updates over the weekend. It's injury season around the NFL. We had a lot of impactful ones over the weekend. Jonathan Jones joins us once again to break down some of the biggest ones. And there was no one more scary than Rashee Rice's injury. Patrick Mahomes, after he threw the interception, runs into his knee What's the latest you're hearing on that injury?
Yeah, so Andy Reid after the game said it didn't look good. After the game, learned that the Chiefs fear it's an ACL. We're still at this exact moment still waiting on the MRI results, but as you two both well know, those on-field tests, you pretty well know if you think it's an ACL, it usually is an ACL. I assume they're holding out hope that maybe it was just a really bad hyperextension, but obviously I think that we understand what Rashee Rice is faced with and what the Chiefs are faced with, which is he will very likely be out for the rest of the season with that ACL. We're still waiting on Hollywood Brown to come back for the Chiefs. That may not be until January. Isaiah Pacheco still maybe about a month out. And so, look, you're always going to hear in the NFL, right, guys, next man up. But they're a little lacking in the cupboard right now. And so I know that everyone wants to throw up the graphic of what wide receiver can the Kansas City Chiefs trade for right now. Two things on that. Number one, I don't really know any team 4 games in that has given up on their season so much that they're willing to trade one of their top flight wide receivers to the Kansas City Chiefs. So you can think about Amari Cooper and you can think about Cooper Kupp or Christian Kirk or whomever else. I don't see that happening to the Kansas City Chiefs or anywhere. But number two, because it's the Kansas City Chiefs, the price is going to be high on the Chiefs. Teams aren't just going to hand over to the Chiefs a wide receiver, much like the Buffalo Bills did Xavier Worthy in the draft. If they do, it will come at a price, and we have to wait and see if the Chiefs are going to be willing to pay that price. So what do we know about the Chiefs and how they operate? They wait a little bit. They try to figure it out with their guys. And then if it's not working, they will make a move. It's still 5 weeks and 1 day until the trade deadline. I don't see anything happening in terms of a trade anytime soon.
Yeah, JJ, one name I noticed that you didn't put on that list was Davante Adams. Obviously, you think there is not a chance in hell that Antonio Pierce and the folks in the Raiders organization are going to let Davante Adams go, let alone to the division rival Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, not a chance at all. I know that there are some sort of new analytics that oh, you actually should do trades with in-division rivals because you can get one over on them. That's
I'm anti-analytics.
No, you do not send Davante Adams to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, me and Mike were just talking about this. Who are going to be the guys that stepped up? Because you talked about Pacheco, you talked about Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown now. So we're going to see guys like Juju Smith-Schuster, Watson. They're going to be bigger parts, have bigger roles in this offense. And truly, we're going to find out how great Patrick Mahomes is, how well Andy Reid can get a team back on the right track. Although they're undefeated, we keep forgetting this team is undefeated, although it could be 1-3 versus 4-0. A lot of these games have been really tight for the Chiefs, but it all comes down to that defense, JJ. It's not just Mahomes' show.
I will say it's difficult to overstate how big of an injury this is, though. Rashee Rice was your man beater.
Superstar.
He was the guy that when you had one-on-ones across the board, you were going his way.
Yep.
And Travis Kelce used to be that guy a couple years ago. He has slowed down to the point where I don't think he's that guy anymore, and so you flat out don't have that guy. And so he was second in the NFL in receiving yards heading into this past week. I don't think there's any replacing him. You have a bunch of zone beaters now. You're going to have to manufacture it. I just don't see this offense reaching the peak we thought it will, but obviously when you have Patrick Mahomes, you still should be able to move the football. All right, some other injuries of note around the NFL. The scariest one for a fan base, Anthony Richardson goes down not once, but twice in that game, goes down, misses 2 plays, comes back in. They call a quarterback counter. And he goes down before even contact. He's out for the game. Hip injury, what's the severity you're hearing of that injury?
Mike, I'm so glad that you pointed out that the Indianapolis Colts coaching staff didn't protect the quarterback, the running quarterback, with a bad hip and calling that play to let him go run and give him the option to go ahead and run and hurt his hip again. That was ridiculous. Fortunately, for the Colts, they did, of course, rule him out very early. We're going to see. Obviously, he's sore. If he is going to be able to practice on Wednesday or Thursday. This Colts group is, especially under Shane Steichen, very, very quiet out of Indy, and so I don't think that we're going to get too much until we get to Wednesday at the very earliest. So, Anthony Richardson, this is something that has to concern the Indianapolis Colts. A number of various injuries. He's missed 13 games, but even more importantly, in my opinion, in the 8 games that he has played in and started, 4 of them now he has not finished. So he has missed more than 60% of his career so far, and 50% of the time he plays, he doesn't finish the game. You know, these guys are as big and bigger than Anthony Richardson. Maybe not at Florida, but certainly here in the NFL, and he continues to learn that over and over again. And you would think, Kyle, that the coaching staff would help protect him if he's not going to do well to protect himself. And calling that play after he just injured his hip, I couldn't believe it.
All the things that you just said about Anthony Richardson, his inability to finish games, the injuries he's had, it leads me to believe that this coaching staff, they just don't care. They just do not care about the health of this guy because they know they've got a guy in Joe Flacco who can come in off the bench at the drop of a hat and make plays for this football team. Obviously, they'd love for Anthony Richardson to be healthy, but when you're calling plays like quarterback counter after your guy gets blasted midfield and is clearly in a lot of pain, it tells me everything I need to know about that staff.
All right, on to the last guy here who, if you had the number 1 overall pick in your fantasy draft before the end of August, you probably care a lot about. Christian McCaffrey still has yet to see a snap through 4 weeks this season. Anytime you hear a guy's going overseas for treatment, that's going to raise some eyebrows. What's the latest on him and his timetable for return?
So he went to Germany, got treatment for his Achilles tendonitis that I'm told the tendonitis, he's had it for years. But it really flared up, as we know, right at the start of the season. He had that terrible practice there on the Thursday leading in and into that, I think, week 2 game. And so then he was placed on injured reserve. I was told at the time that he was certainly going to miss more than the minimum 4 games. That continues to be the case. Kyle Shanahan said that McCaffrey, who is now back from Germany, he's going to ramp up in practice a little bit. But I could still see this being 3 or 4 weeks away, depending on how that ramp up goes. And of course, it's Achilles tendonitis. It can always flare back up. Rest helps, of course, but it can always come up. And if, Mike, kind of to your point, if you're going overseas at this point for something like that, you start to worry and wonder if this is ever going to go away.
Yeah, I dealt with that as a Packers fan with David Bakhtiari and his knee for the past few years, where it's just like, oh, he's going to be back. Oh, he's going to be back. Oh, it's like, oh. Sometimes it doesn't come all the way back, especially when you're talking about things like tendonitis, which can be just chronic and they're going to have to live with. But I will say, with what they're doing right now, I am not rushing him back whatsoever if I'm the San Francisco 49ers. I think Jordan Mason's looked more than good enough at the running back position to where they don't need to, and this is a long-term plan. What you did to build around him and what you did for this year is for a Super Bowl. It's not for a Week 7 win in the division, right? So I think if I'm the 49ers, I'm taking this as cautiously.
Yeah, I think it helps the 49ers be a better football team overall, not having to rely solely on Christian McCaffrey. The offense, obviously, with Shanahan, runs through Christian McCaffrey. And to your point, JJ, this thing could flare up again. You know, I've had turf toe, I've had Achilles tendonitis. I would say Achilles tendonitis is worse than turf toe. I mean, it's one of those things that you squeam when you think about. You squirm a little bit thinking about your Achilles, something happening to it, because it's just not an aesthetically pleasing injury to think about. So for Christian McCaffrey, you got to rest up. And to your point about Jordan Mason, they have enough there in San Francisco right now to be okay and not panic.
Thanks as always, Jonathan Jones. He joins us every single Monday to break down storylines throughout the season. Coming up after this, we're going to break down overreaction versus reality. We're a quarter pole at the season. Are we overreacting to some of these takes, or is it true what we've seen through 4 weeks? It's everyone's favorite game, overreaction versus reality. Quarter pole, even though it's not the quarter pole, because the NFL really messed it up.
I hate that.
Stupid 17.
I'm going to overreact to that. Screw that. We're at the end of the first quarter right now.
We had the perfect, the symmetry with 32 teams, 16 games, 6 playoff teams. It just it felt like a nice glove that
just
fits
made
perfectly. Sense. Like picking up your childhood glove, and it's just that was what it should be. Now it feels like putting on someone else's glove. It doesn't feel right. And there's no quarter pole, but we're calling it the quarter pole for the content reasons.
That's what we're going to do. If you don't like it, fight us.
All right. Overreaction or reality, though, is what we've seen going to continue, or is it not? The Washington Commanders are a real threat to win the NFC East. I think that's a tame prop there. They're going to win the NFC East. Is that overreaction? Because they are at first right now. They're 3-1. Eagles are 2-2, sitting in second.
I would say it's underreaction. Underreaction. That's how good they are. I mean, they're not a real threat. They are the threat to win the AFC East. They are the NFC East. This group is going to run through these defenses. I do not see this offense slowing down anytime soon. For Jaden Daniels and the Commanders, they have a huge shot in the arm with this number 2 pick out of LSU. He's unbelievable. And if I'm the Cowboys, if I'm the Eagles, I'm the Giants. The Eagles got smacked in Tampa Bay. Cowboys, a lot of questions about them. They stole a win against the Giants, who they've dominated historically. And then you got Daniel Jones and the boys in New York. So the only team I really don't have a question about right now offensively are those guys in Washington.
We do have questions about their defense. So if you're saying they're going to win it, I think that's a little overreaction.
If a track meet breaks out every week, who are you going to trust the most out of these 4 quarterbacks right now?
I'll just say, it's kind of like the New Orleans Saints after 2 weeks. They played 2 of the worst defenses in the NFL the past 2 weeks. They were great. Don't get me wrong. They were great. But call me if they.
What week should I call you?
This week.
Okay.
This week. They're playing one of the best defensive lines in the NFL.
Yep.
Cleveland Browns. They pass that test. The O-line blocks it up. Jaden Daniels goes out. We see, they put 30-plus on the scoreboard again.
Would 28 make you happy?
I'll put my money where my mouth is. I'll bet them to win.
28 works?
28 works too.
Okay.
Sure. They do that, go out with a dub, we'll take it. But if Deshaun Watson looks good against this defense and
it's going to be 27 for 20 or for 27 for 31, 319, 3 tuds.
You're calling your shot. I love it.
That's it. 27 for 21, 319, 3 tuds.
I'm going to say it's just a little overreaction.
And a pick.
Next, overreaction versus reality. 2-time NFL Coach of the Year. He doesn't even coach in the NFC. Kevin Stefanski is on the hot seat in Cleveland. Overreaction or reality?
I think it's reality. Unfortunately, in the National Football League, I mean, you have to win. And if you're not winning, then they'll find somebody else to come in and win. And unfortunately for Kevin Stefanski, who you said 2-time Coach of the Year? 2-time Coach of the Year? Well, it's not going to be 3-time, Mike, because this year it's not been a really great showing for these Cleveland Browns. And it starts at the top with the quarterback. We talked about the offensive line. Obviously, their defense is stingy. That's the way they do things in Cleveland. But at the end of the day, you got to score points in the National Football League. You can't be handing the other team the football every handful of drives. I think it's proper reaction.
I think Kevin Stefanski should give both those Coach of the Years to Bill Callahan. This team and this offensive line specifically looks horrible without him. Deshaun Watson, not going to defend his performance. He's been terrible himself. But the offensive line is only exacerbating his propensity to take sacks.
Those are big words.
Those are
big words.
Couldn't even get him out. He just truly is sacking himself away games. No pun intended. But Deshaun, this Cleveland Browns team, it's not him, though, necessarily that should be on the hot seat. It's Andrew Berry. He's the one that stuck him with a lame duck at quarterback. He's the one that put him in this position. Yeah, they've had injuries. Yeah, he hasn't been able to overcome it. But I don't think Kevin Stefanski should be on the hot seat for one tough season. All right, next up, Drake May should start for the Patriots versus the Dolphins in Week 5 after this putrid Patriots offense the past couple weeks.
Wrong. Keep Drake May healthy. Make your team better. Get your roster better. How do you do that? You continue to lose football games. Jacoby Brissett's getting paid a lot of money to be out there at the quarterback position. I don't think if I'm Jacoby Brissett, I'm complaining because he knows there is a guy on the bench who a lot of people think is really talented. We hear whispers from New England about some of the things that this guy Drake May can do at practice. Keep it at practice. Keep it at practice. Keep it at practice. Next year is when we want to see Drake May. It's the only way you can build this roster up the right way. And for Jared Mayo, he's just getting started as the head coach. You want to keep your best thing ready for when your team is ready to strike. You're not ready to strike right now. This is the whole reason why we didn't play him in Week 1. You know what I'm saying? They threw him out there a couple weeks ago, and he got rattled a little bit. He got hit around. He almost threw a pick. Keep him on the bench. Keep him on the bench.
Overreaction. I'm right there with you. This was a long-term vision in the first place. That's why you didn't start him Week 1.
Patience.
Why subject him to the hits that Jacoby Brissett's taking? You know you don't have the situation around him to win. Why throw him out to the Wolves right now? No, I just go back to Patrick Mahomes. He started one game his rookie year. Second year, he's an MVP. If you got it, you don't need to play right away. If you got it when you play in the NFL, when you start playing, you'll show it. If
you heard
don't
what
got
Kevin
it, you won't
O'Connell
show it.
said? Kevin O'Connell said quarterbacks more often than not don't fail teams. Teams fail quarterbacks.
Starting him right now would be failing him.
Yes.
All right, last one. Joe Flacco gives the Colts the best chance to win this season.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes. You get to throw the football. You get to play a little bit of modern offense. I know we all love running the football with Anthony Richardson and missing deep crossers by 10 yards vertically. But at the end of the day, you get a guy like Joe Flacco. You know, he can't find me right now. He's got a bad hip. You know, Anthony's got a bad hip right now.
Well,
but
if he fired a shot at you, he wouldn't even
Joe
hit it.
Flacco, 40 years old, has seen all the defenses, has been there, has won the big games, has taken his team to the top of the mountain. Anthony Richardson hasn't done that. I saw this offensive line yesterday look like a really, really, really motivated group. When Anthony Richardson goes out of the game, now you're being asked to pass protect a lot more. It goes from an O-line friendly, we're going to run the football, we're going to get people on their heels, to now Flacco's in the game, we're going to throw the ball 40 times. This is what we do. And I saw them respond. And you know why they respond positively? Because they know what I know. And that's because Joe Flacco gives them a better chance to win football games.
I can't help but agree. We saw it last year in Cleveland. That offense that the Browns had that was so mediocre under Sean Watson goes on a tear.
Oh my God, it works.
Whoa. And then we saw it in Carolina. The offense that was so putrid when Bryce Young comes in. Andy Dalton comes in and all of a sudden these things work.
Matt Ryan's going to go get a job soon.
Everyone's talking about these defenses. What are they doing to confuse these guys? Joe Flacco's seen it all, man. He knows how to attack any blitz you want. He's going to be able to diagnose them. And he has more talent there on this Indianapolis offense than I think he ever had in Baltimore, truthfully. This is a loaded Indianapolis Colts roster. I think they're going to put up points on some people.
Is there any better accent to hear in a post-game interview than a Delco accent?
Oh, no.
He's got that accent that just only exists in television shows. But, yeah, Joe Flacco's got it, and he gives them the better chance to win. What we got next?
Don't hurry Anthony Richardson back. What we have next is a little break until we talk about the 2 Monday Night Football games. Right after this.
Mike, I don't think people realize, but we were just singing Creed at the halftime show from Dallas like 15 years ago.
We were riffing on the old school, what was it, 02-03 Creed halftime show. Just hoping that we get that this year.
Okay.
But we hope we get a couple entertaining Monday Night Football games
Yes.
as well. So we got a doubleheader.
Yes.
2 doubleheaders. I'm a fan. I don't know your thoughts on them.
2 bucks, 1 audio.
I get 0 audio, 2 box. I don't do announcers. They're not my thing. But we have Tennessee heading to Miami tonight. Dolphins favored despite Snoop Huntley now.
Yep.
Starting at the quarterback position. Who you like?
I really like the Titans in this one. I think the Titans defense is going to show up. They're going to have it locked down at the line of scrimmage and make life for Snoop Huntley difficult. They know they're going to run him a little bit, but that defense is up for the challenge.
I like Titans as well. I think Will Levis has been playing good. Pause. Outside of the turnovers. Turnovers have been a disaster, but he's shown growth from last year. I think we see that in this one against a weaker defense than they've seen.
No more hero ball, Will.
Yeah, no more of those. But so I think that, and I like the over as well in that one. Seahawks travel to Detroit to face the Lions. A heavyweight matchup.
This
the
is
one
the
we're all
game.
looking forward to. Who you like?
This is the game. You know, I love the Seahawks, but I think the Lions are going to win at home. Jared Goff, very comfortable. I think the Lions cover that number. They're going to keep it within 3 points, but it's going to be the Lions at home.
I don't think the Seahawks have done enough to scheme their pass protection issues around them. I think Aiden Hutchinson goes off in this one. I think the Detroit Lions defensive line difficult to block
streak
up.
continues.
Because of that, I think they win, but they have injuries themselves. Frank Ragnow out in this one, so it could be a low-scoring one. I really like.
Comes down to Dan Campbell questionable decisions, maybe.
They're never questionable. They're always.
It'll be
always
fun,
makes
though.
the right
2
call.
games.
It will be fun. We're big fans of the Monday Night Football doubleheader, and we're also big fans of you guys joining us every Monday through Thursday, 9:30 a.m. on the Pushing the Pile podcast. Find it on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Hope you guys will join us. We'll be back on CBS Sports Network next Thursday, 1 p.m. ET. Until then, keep pushing.
Thanks for coming.